I've been the publicist for about 6 months, and I get a phone call from Linda Kahn, whose husband John was Jerry's bass player for Everything Not Grateful Dead. And it's 10 minutes before they were doing a duo show at Lincoln Center, and Susana, who was a friend of theirs, but had never shot in a classical venue, and they get very serious in Lincoln Center. So suddenly, 10 minutes before the show, I get a phone call saying, you know, can you get Susana a photo pass? To which I, after thinking about it and sorting it out, say, no, I can't. I mean, this, you know, I hadn't advanced the show. I didn't know who people who worked for Lincoln Center. This is before cell phones, so I couldn't pick up the phone and call Steve Parrish, who was the tour manager. So I basically said, sorry, Linda, you're on your own. I'm not trying to be mean here, but, well, you know, Linda was resourceful, and she immediately went to Steve and said, come on, and he came through. And there are pictures of that night, right?
That's it. That's actually, Jerry at Lincoln Center, and when you open the...
This is here?
Yeah. At 84, and that's Jerry and John Kahn.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, really noir John Kahn on stage smoking a cigarette. Can you imagine that happening?
At Lincoln Center.
At Lincoln Center. And for me, it was really meaningful to do this because it kind of united my old life and new life, because I grew up in Manhattan on the Upper West Side, went to, you know, a lot of concerts at Lincoln Center, and didn't get on the bus until the later 70s, unfortunately, because I had been teaching in New York and very linear, dropped out, went to South America to study shamanism, met a bunch of intense deadheads who I came back to California with, and got involved with the Grateful Dead, first meeting Dick Lodfalla, and then meeting Rockin' Nicky Scully, who lived in a house upstairs where Jerry was downstairs, and he would come up and have dinner, and he was, you know, he was just a really great guy, and a lot of fun, and so witty and knowledgeable, and could talk about so many things so brilliantly. And he didn't have good taste in wine, though, I have to say. He really liked the sweet stuff like Black Russians or, you know, just heavy sugar, and I was very disappointed in bringing a really good bottle of wine over, and he didn't even want any of it.
So I get into the scene because I wrote a book about Jack Kerouac called Desolate Angel. It was my doctoral dissertation, and the same guy who had really shoved me in that direction, gave me important help, was a deadhead, and took me to my first show, which was in 1972 in Springfield. Gave me my first hit. You know, we get to the show. Open your mouth. Oh, that's what this is all about. After a while, I came up with a not terribly original but sensible idea that I wanted to do 2 books, and one was Kerouac. If I wanted to stay in academia, I would have said the History of Bohemianism in Post-World War II America. Volume 1 is what I call it was Desolate. Was Kerouac in the 40s and 50s, and then the Grateful Dead in the 60s and 70s. And because I am really, really slow, you got the 80s and 90s for free. Actually, it took me 25 years, but that's the end of what I ended up doing. Because in the middle, what happened was, long story short, met Jerry. I had sent him a copy of the Kerouac book, and I met him, and I sort of managed to slither into the conversation. Well, Jerry, by the way, I wrote this Kerouac book. Did you ever get it? Because I didn't know anybody. I had no notion of how to get to them, and all I had done was send it to the Grateful Dead fan club address, which was Post Office Box 1065. And there was a very lovely lady then as now named Eileen Law who opened that mail and made sure Jerry got it, and he read it. And I wrote a good book. I'm not bragging nor bad-mouthing it, but Jerry went berserk over it because Kerouac was really important to him. It was his hero and really his mentor, his role model as a 16-year-old young hipster in the making, running around San Francisco. He was kind of the youngest beatnik. He was not a hippie. He was the baby, the baby beatnik. in his own point of view. So anyway, a couple years later, I was running out of money, and they needed a publicist. Long story to that. And one day, the receptionist said, "The fuck we gonna do about the media? They keep calling. Nobody calls them back because the manager was busy and didn't care about that. And this is the only band in the world that wouldn't care if somebody wanted to give them PR. It's a great advantage when you're the publicist, and nobody ever in 15 years of being their publicist, or actually 25 years of being their publicist, nobody ever said, "Why aren't we in the paper?" Which every other client I've ever had, starting with her. No, that's not true. But most every client I've ever had, how come the show's not doing well? Why aren't you getting us more publicity? Not the Grateful Dead. That was not our problem. We had other challenges. And Garcia, she raised this question, and Garcia said, "Get me to hello,
Hello.
hi." I can tell.
Hi.
That's a Kramer.
You got it.
Hi. I haven't seen you in a while. I lost my your
Sorry.
smiley face. I lost my
Get
throat.
McNally
And
to do
Jerry's
it,